Hello, my name is KY. I have tanked since Trial of the Grand Crusader and Wrath of the Lich King. I have occasionally dabbled in healing. I have ranked top 2.5% for multiple tanks in the US for Mythic Plus. I've also achieved the rival title in PvP when it was top 10% of the arena ladder. Doing a big pull to start out, I'm going to be looking for is to stop as many of the fixates and to get as many kicks on the fears as we can on the war scourges. Once we get it gathered up, we can pop CDs, both offensive CDs and defensive CDs. It is a lot of mobs. After we get this kick, I'm just gonna chain pull to this next group. Without a fear going off in the next couple seconds, I can give my kick some time to come back. Still not a lot going on, so I'm just going to keep chaining. I do chain here. However, as the mobs come in, if they are going to pull some of these side mobs, you can see the decay speaker start to come in. It makes the pull a little bit awkward. Usually don't pull that extra decay speaker, but it's just a couple mobs at the end I can skip. There's a lot of damage on the group here. All of these earth bolts can be cast on random targets. The withering burst is also a lot of damage. It can be dispelled by the paladin, but it's still going to be dangerous and still looking to kick the fears from the war scourge. Pulling the Mystics, even not on Death Knight, I tend to pull these away from the patrol here. Just because you don't need the patrol and it's easier as the tank just to chain and while DPS or healer goes and unlocks the cage. Should have enough CC here on any tank to be able to mitigate most or all of the damage on the DPS. Then this can just chain into the boss if the healer doesn't need mana. Going into the first boss, I am going to be trying to get just kicks on Earth Bolts. It can be a lot of damage on just DPS, which, depending on the healer, can be uh, pretty dangerous if certain abilities overlap. For the decay senses, if you can do something to mitigate magic, uh, it does stop you from being disoriented. For Death Knight, you can AMS the application. After AMS ends, if you are not dispelled, you'll still get disoriented for a couple of seconds before either the debuff fades or you are dispelled. After the boss, I'm going to do another big pull here. Uh, most of it isn't too dangerous. Most of it's just on the tank. There is uh, some stuff like the frontal from the tree and the bleeds from uh, all the little things that the tree summons. It can be dangerous for DPS. DPS need to mostly look for popping defenses if they have bleeds on them. Uh, as a tank, I've gotten hit by a number of things. You can see I have a number of different debuffs on me, and it's not that big of a deal, especially on this key level. After this, we're going to do another uh, decently large pull. Uh, Mostly looking to minimize the number of rot slingers I'm pulling. The decay totems, especially in pugs, can be pretty dangerous. For the most part, I'm not worried about getting stunned. Uh, I haven't hit Purgatory yet, and it's a very powerful CD. I can use it as a defensive. Uh, None of the bosses are going to be dangerous enough to really threaten me. Uh, I maybe Treemouth consume if I uh, eat too many of them. Here I do pull a Rot Singer, and one of the first things he does is summon a Decay Totem here. Uh, it is very important that you kill the totem. That is the one thing that is potentially unavoidable damage that can actually kill people. Everything else, uh, aside from the bleeds, is avoidable damage and can just be healed through. Uh, Outside of the totem, if you can burst down the Rotsinger, it's ideal to not get more than the one totem, and you definitely want to burst down that totem every time one is spawned. Uh, Here we've got a couple of trees. It's just uh, the only reason I'm not going to immediately chain into the boss is uh, I want to get good threat on the lashers when they're spawned. Whenever I get threat on what looks like the last spawn of lashers, I will chain into the boss. As I get threat on what looks like the last spawn of lashers, I just chain into the boss and pull out all on top of the boss as the tree dies. And just going to go into the boss and uh, AoE down the ads. This first consume coming up does look like 3 people, including myself, do get consumed, which means a bunch of ads are going to spawn. Do want to do your best to stop their cast from going off. It can be pretty good amount of damage if their casts go off. In this one, I do focus a little more on doing damage than surviving, and I do hit Purg. Like I noted before, there's not a lot that's going to threaten me in this key, so I don't mind using Purg as just an extra CD. Stink Breath is a great way to let your healer drink. can get a little extra damage, and as long as you're in either tank or DPS in sort of a mid-range where you can avoid the stink breath, no damage will really go out. You can melee just outside of his whirlwind here. Melee range still hits him. Typically, if you're a melee, you don't want to be standing where the casters are. You don't want casters to have to move more than they need to for that. For this next pull, typically I don't want to pull this ranger, but I, I don't feel threatened at all, and we do have a paladin who can dispel the. It is a poison effect now that causes that fixate that is currently happening on screen there. The fixate is going out again, it looks like. Uh, I'm hoping it gets dispelled, which is why I just pull the boss. I do just boon right inside of the trap, so I do get rooted there. Typically, you don't want to get hit by the dogs after the first couple of seconds as they're out. Their crippling bite has a good chance of killing you even as a tank. Here I'm going to run up to the filth collar here and immediately kick it and try to pull it as close to these other little mobs as I can to get all of the AoE cleave in on top of it. You can kick a lot of the Filth Caller's abilities. The Rotting Surge, uh, you do want to use some kind of CC to stop it. Uh, it, it you can stop the ability from going off with CC. Uh, I do try to uh, avoid this Rot Hexer. Uh, Rot Hexer is probably the most dangerous mob here. When it recalls the debuffs that get put out, it can potentially one-shot a DPS. The Withering Contagion, if you have a disease dispel, like a paladin in this group, you should be dispelling it. And going into the last boss here, you can see the shaman will be standing near the entrance on a mushroom uh, just to the right of me here. And it is actually a safe spot where this cloud can't hit him. I do AMS through that one. It's pretty greedy, just a boon there, but we have a lot of DPS to kill the totems. We have, I believe, 3 legendary weapon effects to uh, cycle through to kill the totems. I don't manage to get as far over as I wanted to place the totem where exactly I wanted to. It, when someone is standing on that safe spot, never point, as a tank, never point the uh, cloud towards them, because as he spews it out, it can hit them. And on the right side of my screen, you can see the kicks, CCs, and dispels.